Greetings, fellow cosmic travelers. Welcome to this video about the Mercury retrogrades of 2022. I'm Jamie Kale Miller of Pandora Astrology. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas, also Pandora, joining in from San Francisco.
And today we have several Mercury retrograde cycles to tell you about. Usually there are 3 in a given year, but this year there are actually going to be 4 of them. Mercury goes retrograde about every 4 months, and it spends about 3 weeks retrograde. When Mercury goes retrograde, Mercury being the thinker, the learner, the curious, questioning communicator, and messenger within us, Mercury retrograde makes us turn a bit introspective, retrospective. We feel that we want to move backwards or look backwards. It's a much better time for cleanouts and reorganization instead of trying to start something new. And there is an astonishing tendency for messages to get lost or misconstrued, and office machinery to break down, or even large swaths of the internet to go offline, etc. So those kinds of technical issues tend to come up during Mercury retrograde periods, and it's a really good time to just put on your most patient face and just kind of relax and ride it out rather than fighting it. And the sign or signs that Mercury goes retrograde in really, really matter. This particular year, we have Mercury retrogrades that begin in air signs and then retrograde or travel backwards into the preceding earth signs. And this has an overall meaning to the year. It's almost as if Mercury is telling us that we are overthinking things, that our approach to things has become overly abstract, more cerebral, more hypothetical than actual, and that we need to return to brass tacks. We need to back up and look inward and look backward and go back to the practical, concrete, tangible, measurable facts of the matter before we can really understand what's going on and move forward. So that feel is going to pervade the Mercury retrograde periods of this year. I'm going to pull the diagrams of these, and Julia, we're going to ask you for your thoughts on how they're likely to feel and play out. The first Mercury retrograde cycle is happening during January. So it begins in January at 10 degrees of Aquarius. Mercury travels backward, having its Epiphany Day on January 23rd. And that's a day when insights can occur to you that help you solve whatever problems this Mercury retrograde has presented. And then it goes direct finally in Capricorn here, February 3rd. Julia, what are your thoughts about Mercury retrograde beginning in Aquarius and finishing in Capricorn?
Well, Aquarius is a very social sign, and air is a very social element. So you can really see how on that juncture of the retrograde cycle, it would really affect relationships and maybe miscommunications within them. Capricorn, being an earth sign and earth versus air, earth can have a lot to do with security as well. Earth can have a lot to do with our own personal security. And with Capricorn, it's the security, it's worldly security. Capricorn is a sign about mastery because it's about being kind of respected by society at large, and a career that provides for one too. So the matters could kind of shift from social relationships to your own sense of personal security as well during this cycle.
Yes, absolutely. Almost as if you got too caught up in what your community thinks of you.
Right.
And instead, after some introspection, returned to the reputation that you want to have.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good analysis.
Yeah, I really like that. I like those thoughts about social. That really is a fit for Aquarius and Capricorn. So the second Mercury retrograde period is starting May 10th in Gemini, retrograding back to 26 degrees of Taurus on June 3rd. Julia, what are your thoughts about this one?
This one really kind of strikes a chord with what you were saying earlier about the difference between abstract and tangible information. Gemini is a sign of information. It's a sign of learning. It's a sign of communication, but on a very, very abstracted level. Whereas Taurus is the show me sign. Taurus, is much more about like the tangible, what's in my hand versus what I could abstractly grasp for. So I think in the end, it's about backing up abstractions with tangible results, and with especially in the sign of Taurus being a very, very sensual sign, could affect our relationships in some way too.
True. And its traditional rulership by Venus as well supports that thought. I think that when Mercury goes retrograde in Gemini, it's such a purely Mercury retrograde experience because Mercury rules Gemini, right? It's one of the two signs that it rules. And so I think that communications proper can get so tangled up, and a return to the characteristically Taurian patience might really help you get through that.
Yeah, a big hug would be more powerful than words during this cycle, especially in your relationships, because, Gemini and Taurus are relational in different ways. Gemini wants to connect by the minds, Taurus wants to connect in a more sensual way too. So having to kind of move away from the abstract and then head towards the more material, whether that's sensual, within relationships too.
Yes, I like it. Okay, then the third cycle begins September 9th with Mercury here in Libra, retrogrades back into Virgo here October 2nd. What are your thoughts, Julia?
Libra and Virgo, at first they seem like they're going to be so different, but they've got some similarities. I think they're both very perfectionistic signs in their own way. Libra wants to have the 5-inch heels and the, perfect nails and whatever, but Virgo just wants to make sure that they do the job really well. And, so this could be a review of perfectionism, on one sense, going from the abstract or perfectionism within your relationships to perfectionism within your own craft and your own service.
Oh, I love that.
People. Virgo's a big sign.
I think it fits really nicely with what you said before about Aquarius too, because Libra is a very social sign. And so this might have to do with getting into kerfuffles in your relationship, maybe out of caring too much about what the partners in your life, their opinions or what they think of you or how you're coming off in the relationship, but then returning to a sort of a Virgoan state of like self-sufficiency of like, I'm the one who decides what's perfect about me, not you. Like stopping looking in the mirror and just looking at yourself.
Yeah.
So there is one last Mercury retrograde period happening in 2022, and that one happens entirely in the sign of Capricorn. And so this is how it goes. Mercury will tend to do all of its retrogrades, usually inside of a given year, in a single element. And then it'll have a year in which it's transitioning from one element to another. And then it'll go into a year in which it's all in that element. And so back in 2020, we had all of our Mercury retrogrades in air. In 2021, we have them transitioning from air to earth. And in 2022, we'll be looking at Mercury retrogrades happening just in earth. And this is the beginning of that. So it's probably going to have some feels that are a bit like the one at the beginning of the year that finished in Capricorn, except this one is entirely in Capricorn. So, Julia, I'm thinking this is probably going to impact people quite a bit around miscommunications in their work life. What do you think of that?
Oh, yeah, certainly. Capricorn can be work life and greater reputation at large, too. It's almost like I could see this being a period of almost like a little bit of gossip, where there might be rumors about your reputation where you have to be like, no. I have to set the record straight. That's not what I'm all about.
Yeah, it could definitely be work gossip. But I think that there's something here about having your communications, which you deliver in an authoritative way, being misconstrued. And then you have to ask yourself, how do I want my words? And this is the introspection part, right? How do I want my words to radiate authority and to support the reputation that I'm trying to build?
Yeah, this
So
would
getting
be very
your mouth where your money is, if you
Yeah, it would be very important, I think, for people who are in leadership positions like bosses or managers, or, you know, people who this cycle effect could specifically, just like you said, affect the authoritative voice. So more people in authority might have to be a little bit more cautious with the words and the message they put out.
Yeah, and Capricorn represents government as well.
Hmm.
So it would be interesting to see, you know, who in the government backpedals and who in the government stands by what they're actually saying.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thought. All right. Well, that's what we've got for you today about Mercury retrograde. You can find this video in our 2022 news playlist.
Got to get used to saying that.
Oh, it's like not
New
rolling off my
year.
tongue quite yet. And along with videos about Ceres retrograde happening in 2022 and Venus retrograde happening in 2022. And you can find this stuff also on our monthly forecast on our website. And if this brings up questions in your mind about how these Mercury retrograde periods may affect you, then you can get a reading, which you can find in the readings tab on our website, pandoraastrology.com. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye.
Bye.